Boom, boom, boom. Hi, this is Eric Stromquist. Welcome to Control Talk. Now, your smart buildings video cast and podcast for the week ending November 17th, 2019. It's getting near Thanksgiving, folks. And this is episode 339, where we talk about all things HVAC, smart building controls, and control news. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I won't keep the suspense any longer. Your co-host and mine, the man, the myth, the legend, the secret agent man is back in the saddle after doing secret agent stuff. So, Kenny, welcome to the show, Big Dog.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. I see now. That's my. Whenever I'm absent, I'll be on a secret mission somewhere. Right? I like that. So at least it makes me feel important, even though it might be I'm just simply in a plane. I got to get home. And no, but you know what? Hey, there's a lot going on, isn't there, in the industry, Eric?
Well, there is a lot going on. So listen, we're going to dub this. So first of all, let our audience know we're going to dub this our influencer episode because we got two great guests of the Controltrends community has not met yet. It will be the first time you've heard them on this show, maybe the first time you've heard them or heard of them at all, but it will not be the last. We have a podcaster that's coming on. He's going to talk about his versions of the buildings of tomorrow and what he's doing, very innovative stuff. Mm-hmm. You're not going to want to miss that. And you're also going to have an integrator who is just really, really an interesting guy. Kenny really promotes a product line that's near and dear to your and my heart, which is EasyIO. And I tell you what, dude, talk about people that influence and are helped by influencers. What do you think about EasyIO being purchased by Johnson Controls?
Well, I think you mentioned it once before. It was like watching a good friend or a relative grow up and mature into a much larger entity and then get married.
It's almost like, no, to me, that's a different analogy. I might have been talking about one of my ex-wives, but no, the analogy I have is it's like introducing two of your best friends, right? And sort of watching them mature and get married. So now we've heard this from EasyIO's release that they've been purchased by Johnson Controls. We hadn't heard it from Johnson Controls yet, but you know how that goes, Kenny. There's I think the intent's there. They probably have signed the paperwork and they're probably just working through details to make sure that there are no sort of hidden landmines or anything there that could blow up. But I suspect we'll be hearing it from Johnson Controls here probably the next week or so, I'm guessing. But I think it's a great fit. We've been working with EasyIO since day one. Mad Mike, Lem, and the rest of the team. We're big fans of those guys. And I'm happy for them, and I'm happy for JCI too, because I think they're getting a really great company with really great technology.
I couldn't agree with you more. Again, the intimate knowledge that we had with EasyIO over the years, and watching, from the first time we met Mike Marston and the dynamic character that he was, and he brought everything together. He had the breadth of experience. Started out, in England, went to Australia, and actually worked for Tritium for many years, and then the the meeting of Lim Hoon Chot and the technology, the guru. We did the control people, and how we got to know Lim very, very in depth, and how he had humble origins and all the way up to patents galore, and the technological achievements that he had done professionally and personally, and then seeing those forge into Johan Schackelrod and in Amsterdam.
Gordon Chen, yeah.
And Gordon Chen, and then the last surge, the last North American editions, Gina Elliott and Brian Klein, and how the critical mass just kept getting more and more, critical mass. I just grew bigger, drew more people, drew more attention, drew more eyes and ears, and finally, I think what JCI looked and saw the technology that they'd love to have in their portfolio, but would take them a long time to do internally, could suddenly be a matter if you can't beat them, buy them, and that was it.
Yeah, well, no, I think so, and what I really like about it, because I think the thing about EasyIO and Mad Mike Marston and Lim Hoon Chot and all those guys, Kenny, is, man, they're likable. They had a likability factor about them. They're global. They're around the world. We've covered their global conferences. Watching them come to prominence in North America has been a joy for us. And I think, part of it is the guys at DZI, they do the right thing. They take care of the people that take care of them. They take great care of their integrators, and and they've got that integrity. As Jeff Haupt said, we're in the integrity economy now, right? Meaning that you do the right thing, you're rewarded. You don't, word gets around. So happy for those guys. And listen, let's bring our first guest on, because he's an integrator that speaks a lot and does a lot with EasyIO. So how about introducing our first guest, Kenny?
Eric, I'd love to. We are talking with one of the hardest working entrepreneurs out there. We're talking to the owner of Twisted Pair Automation, Mr. Brian Marini. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Hey,
Thank you
Brian.
for having me. Big
Oh,
fan.
man. Oh, well, thank you, Brian, so much, man. We appreciate you. We hear great things about you.
Awesome.
And, man, we want to sort of do a deep dive into the history. But let's just sort of start off with, tell us about Twisted Pair. What made you found Twisted Pair and go out on your own?
That's a cool name, by the way.
Thank you. You know, it's weird because only the people in the industry understand it.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, you know, I've been in the industry since about 2001, 2002. And I just started to get a little frustrated with how customers were getting treated on the automation side in regards to pricing and whatnot. The constant call of systems being open, and in reality, they weren't as open as they were always sold to be. So when I found EasyIO, that was for me a gateway to open a company, to really build a company around a product line, without having to have a huge buy-in or huge contracts behind it.
Okay. Well, outside of that, Brian, what had you choose EasyIO? Because I mean, that is a key feature for our listeners. Might know EasyIO is a product line. Both Kenny and I handle it, and Brian is one of the top EasyIO integrators. But so it's a great product line. Like I said, one of the features there is it's open and there's not a large buy-in to get in. But what about what else had you choose EasyIO?
Well, you know, usually when you find something at that price point with lack of licensing requirements and whatnot, you don't have the versatility that EasyIO gives. And you know, that's, if I had to describe EasyIO in one word, it would be versatility. Not only do you get the product and the technology behind it and all the hard work that EasyIO as a company's put into it, but you know, you get the luxuries. You get the wire sheet programming. You're not programming in a line environment. You get an all-in-one controller out of the box with all your maintenance fees, all your licensing fees. It's a one-stop shop type of controller with the graphics built in, the trending, the SD card. So it really allows someone like me who runs a smaller company to have a limited amount of stock, because one controller can do so many different versatile projects.
Sure.
And that was a big part of us choosing EasyIO to really build around.
Well, one thing about EasyIO, and as Eric mentioned, we both have sold EasyIO probably now 10 years, I'd say, whenever it became available. But one thing that was unique about it is guys like you earned your stripes. In other words, this was truly an entrepreneurial, kind of a equation. The harder you wanted and the more you wanted to learn it, the more the access you had. So we watched different people take off. And normally the guys that stay up at 12 o'clock at night to figure something out, this fell right in their lap and they said, bingo, this is a 10 on the zero, or the 10 on the target sheet, because you were only limited by your own innovation and your own drive to excel. So some of the things that when you do EasyIO is you had to. They didn't have a national campaign and marketing. They spend millions of dollars in marketing. So the customers had to trust you. They had to say, you know what, let's let Brian decide what the best controls are for our application, and get out of his way. And then Brian hands them a turnkey project, and everybody's happy. And you move on to the next one, because it seems to me like you've had no problem growing your business.
No, and you know, it's a domino effect. One thing that really helped with that is when I first started, that first night I got my first controller, I was in the garage till midnight, and I remember emailing Fu regarding a question I had, and it was 12:31 a.m. in California, and 20 minutes later I had an answer, and I was like, whoa, it blew me away. I'm not waiting for weeks and having to call people and chase them around. So when you have a company like EasyIO that backs you like that, with the support, it like I said, it's the domino effect. If they're growing and being successful at that, the integrators are going to be doing the same.
Yeah, SK Fu was a remarkable guy. He came to Pittsburgh. He used to do training back in the old days. Now, EasyIO has grown, and now Brian Klein takes the majority of the North American training responsibilities. But yeah, SK Fu was remarkable, and he told me once. I said, "How do you?" He says loves it. He says he sits there watching TV with his computer in his lap, looking for the next ping, or waiting for the next ping. But that's their origin. Now we know that EasyIO has moved on to bigger and better things. But so how did you get started in the whole BAS, building automation world? Were you a technician? Did you come out of a trade
Yeah,
school?
yeah. So it happened kind of weird. I actually started in the mechanical HVAC industry. So I went to a trade school, get EPA certified, went through the whole mechanical program. A teacher there, they went through kind of the way they taught the schools in phases. And one of the phases was digital controls. The teacher there was actually his day job, because I went to night school. His day job was an engineer at a hospital. And he saw that I liked computers. I picked it up pretty easy. And you know, to be honest, in my class, I was the one that knew how to turn a computer on. So, you know, and back in high school, I played with C++ here and there for projects and whatnot. So when he introduced me to that control company, which happened to be an Allerton dealer at the time. They hired me, and I mean, it's just been history from there.
Cool.
I fell in love with it, and I'd never want to go back.
So you started out with Allerton, and I think you've worked with several automation companies you mentioned. So
Yes.
sort of walk us through your history with controls. I think it's good context for EasyIO. We can sort of compare and contrast a little bit.
Yeah, so I started with Allerton, and absolutely loved that control system without a doubt. You know, but I guess you get hit with the speed bump of where 100% open system is how it's described. So, you know, for me, I moved from Allerton over to an Andover dealer. Same kind of thing. It just wasn't open enough for me. The other thing about Andover I wasn't a huge fan about was it was really hard to train technicians and customers with the programming, with the line programming setup. After that, I dabbled around in a few different control systems with a control company that repped multiple systems. Reliable was one of them. And then I switched over to Tritium. I went and got certified. Played with Tritium for about 2 or 3 years. And to be honest, playing with Tritium and being in depth with Tritium on some of these bigger jobs actually pushed me to EasyIO a little bit more. You know, Tritium is the Cadillac of the controls industry, and sometimes it's just a little too much for the job, both financially and in the field physically with the controls. So once I started playing with Tritium, got really excited using the wire sheet and all their different kinds of commands, and carried that knowledge over to EasyIO. That's what got me locked into EasyIO, to be honest, was the fact that it was a Sedona platform. It was built somewhat like a Tritium system. It was very easy to train customers and users. And from there, it's just I haven't really had a need to really go back. I haven't had a job big enough that EasyIO can't handle.
Nice. Hey,
Remarkable
Brian,
summary.
real quick, how did you hear about EasyIO for the first time?
Actually, it was one night cruising around YouTube Controltrends account and saw a couple of Mike Marston videos and saw him describing the startup and use of the controller from very beginning. So he brought in a wire sheet, he wrote a little code, he brought in a widget, he dropped it on the page. And for me, I was just looking at that like, wow, that seemed really simple. I wonder if it's really that simple, you know, if we're playing some video tricks. And that video that Controltrends posted is the first real push I got saying, hey, I need to go buy one of these and really start messing with it. Because,
you know, when you told that story, it reminds me so much of the early origins of Mike Marston, how Eric and I would go somewhere with Mike and we'd start talking about it, and he would just pull out this magic bag. He had this bag full of, you know, everything you needed. He did not need to be connected. He had a power supply. He had, you know, a router. He had everything to bring a network on the bar table. We would be in a microbrewery, and he would literally demonstrate that. And that was the first time I ever saw that.
No, it was. Yeah, and Kenny, you're right. I mean, of course, we dubbed him Mad Mike Marston because he did such a great job with the demos. I think we have more videos of Mike Marston on Controltrends and EasyIO than any other vendor, just basically because Mike is just a really awesome interviewer. So we dubbed him Mad Mike Marston. I think we were the first guys to start calling it EasyIO. They call it easy for a reason. And
the Beast from the East, remember that? The FT32?
Oh yeah, I remember that one for sure.
It's kind of like watching your child grow up, right? It's like, because when they came to the U.S., I mean, nobody really knew who they were. And, we sort of connected with them right off the bat. They connected with us, and, they gave us great content. We posted it. And I think very much like you, Brian, we saw the potential there and said, man, this is a really, really cool setup and programmers they have. So.
And touching on that, when EasyIO first started to really gain traction is when I started to see EasyIO in the field with a Tritium Jace up front.
Nice.
So they weren't buying a bunch of Tritium controllers or Vicon based controllers. They weren't buying a bunch of standard application stuff and trying to make it work and then do programming off standard application points in the Jace. I think actually the first company I really saw utilize it a lot was RSD Total Control.
Yeah, Mike Swan. Remember Mike Swan?
Yeah. Dan Jin out here in the Bay Area.
Right. Rest in peace. But,
but he they were putting EasyIO controllers out in the field on air handlers and unitary equipment, and then bringing it all into the Jace. So you still had the Niagara system, but on the integrator side, it was a more financial, profitable move to run EasyIO in the field. And then once again, you go back to the training. It's way easier to train someone to work on an EasyIO controller than it is to get them going on a Jace.
Yeah, less expensive too, right? Because we got the training videos right there on Controltrends.
Exactly. And I think I actually had a Jerry Maguire moment per se. I wrote Mike Marston this crazy email that night, that one in the morning, like, man, you guys have created something that is going to be the future. I don't see, and this was back, 2014, 2015, where you still had to buy a license for some of these controllers to talk to a Modbus device. Or if you had a Modbus native, you had to buy a license to talk to a backup device.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times in my career I had early on that a customer bought a $600 or a $100 Modbus device, and you said, yeah, if you want to use it, you got to buy this $700 license. So EasyIO bringing that versatility of everything out of the box and being able to talk multiple protocols at once is just, it's something that's priceless to an integrator like me.
Well, Brian, it's exciting talking about it because we're going down memory lane, but we're also talking that EasyIO pushed the envelope. That SFS32, we were talking about off mic there. That they introduced a quad core processor and they put the VPN. I mean, they just did so much more technology, and that brings up the other part of EasyIO. The other guy is Lim Hoon Chat, who's. Did you ever meet Lim?
I have not yet, but definitely read some good things about him.
Yeah, think Leonardo da Vinci, Einstein, and a little, what was the guy that worked with Steve Jobs? Wozniak rolled into an Asian body. It's all that together. He's one of the most innovative, relentless, in a good sort of way guys. I mean, he just keeps figuring out how to do stuff. And just a super nice guy, super humble guy, super nice guy. So you're in for a treat when you get to meet Lim. So
right.
I'll tell you right now, the FW line is what recently has really got my head going against the wall. I mean, I can't believe the leaps and bounds they're ahead of other competitors out there, and some of the stuff they're accomplishing in the short amount of time. Their new product, the FT, that thing right there is a gold mine for integrators.
Now, Bob, walk our community through what the FT and the FW are so that they know.
So, I got an FW right here. FW wireless controller, made by EasyIO. This is the VAV version, so it's got the built-in pressure tubes. The best thing about these controllers are the wireless, and they have figured out the wireless, it seems, down to a T. We currently used an FW14 setup at a WeWork office in San Francisco, where they were running 20 fan coils. We were able to throw all these up on the fan coils and run one hard line from our global controller to just one of the controllers, the one closest to the room. And it was, everything popped up. We don't see communication drops. The data coming in on the refresh is just as fast as if you were hardwired. And then the other thing about EasyIO that always stands out to me is that they really think of the end game when it comes to the job. They're one of the very few right now that are using the dual Ethernet switches on their controllers. So you can daisy chain these things. You don't have to cut a switch in every floor or whatnot. Um, they are they're just really on the edge of technology, and to be in that position and sell their products at that price point is pretty amazing for a guy like me, and it really opens a lot of opportunity up for integrators.
Well, you said the FTO. By the way, I want to get my 2 cents in there. I got one.
Oh, there
too.
you go. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're right. It's probably the most portable, handy. And now that he came out with that FW28, now you got a heavy duty input output, controller that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just. But and a remarkable thing, Eric and I got to hear the version of Lim, how he came up with the concept. The idea was to take the most advanced router that had figured out all the communication issues and brought the 802 to the forefront, and then put the IO and put the secret sauce on top of a router versus taking a footprint and then suffering the consequences of having power this, and then this board has to go here, and you got to read. So it's just a crazy concept that was really, now it's being copied by a lot of people. Right?
It's like you said, it's one of those things that at the beginning it seems like a crazy concept, but now you look back retro, is probably the smartest thing anyone could possibly do in the control industry. You look at a guy like Lim, and the way he looks at it is, why put all this effort and time into reinventing a wheel? These guys already created the rock solid product. Let's just add to that.
Right.
So it not only gives you a rock solid product at the end, but it increases the time, decreases the time in which it actually gets manufactured and put out into the public.
Well said.
You're not putting something out 2 years later, and someone else kind of already came behind you in those 2 years and created something that's relevant.
Well, the next thing that you were mentioning, and I agree with you, but the FTO4 has set another new standard and another precedent as far as the compact, the portability of this potency. Tell us some of the applications you've done, because you've got some really cool stuff to talk about.
Well, first of all, tell them what the FT is, and then do what Kenny has said. Kenny asked.
Yeah. So first thing let's touch on is just, like you said, the size. So business card, FT. I mean, you can't get more compact than this in the industry. And not only that, when someone says, you can walk into, you talk to an integrator or another business owner and say, you can walk into a sales meeting in the palm of your hand and have wire sheet programming, alarms, inputs, outputs, a dashboard. And then you say, no, really, in the palm of your hand, you have that. It's amazing that you fit all these great, features into something that's small. Now, the best use case that we've got 2 use cases in progress for this right now. One of them is in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. There's a lot of labs. A lot of these labs have the negative 80 freezers. The one thing I've noticed in the lab environment, a lot of TIs, a lot of companies moving in and out, taking over labs here and there. So basically what they've done is we want to put these on the negative 80 freezers. We got, with the inputs, you can run a temperature sensor, a glycol-based temperature sensor. You can hook up a door switch. And now you have Wi-Fi on this also. So now you are connecting it to your building automation systems and have the ability to move this freezer around based on your TI, where your new walls and everything are at, without having to now disrupt your daisy chain if you have a hardwire comm line. So that's one of them. The second, I think the most financially returnable feature is putting these on rooftop units. We have a lot of systems out here in the Bay Area that run a backnet-based thermostat. So let's just say, for example, a Viconics thermostat. And, they call that a building automation system. It's just a thermostat that talks to a computer that gives you your numbers on the face of the thermostat in reality. You can't really use all its built-in algorithms without a supplier sensor and stuff like that. So being able to throw these up top, talk wireless, so you're not running wire through an entire, on the rooftop. Throw a differential pressure sensor in there across the filter, and maybe a supplier sensor, And on the output, we're going to put a little beacon light. So when the engineer gets up there on the roof and he's looking at 125 package units, he doesn't have to figure out where to go. He can look, see the beacon light, and that's the one with the alarm. Look at those two inputs: a differential pressure, differential pressure, and supply air. What can you do with those two inputs? So not only are you adding monitoring to your system, you're now adding the payback of maintenance. So with the differential air pressure, you can now pick your runtime. You could set belt change alarms and maintenance alarms on your fan. You could set filter alarms and filter change setups based off that. Supply air temp. You can have your runtimes on your compressor. You can count your starts and stops on your compressor. So the amount of stuff you can do with just a couple sensors up there can change the system from a very basic, simple, glorified thermostat system into an actual energy management and information retrieving system for your entire building automation.
It's amazing. Amazing.
Now, do you actually go? Just out of question, I'm sorry. Do you actually look at each one of those FT04s up? I mean, can you drill down to them? So if you're off station, you can go onto your building automation and connect to that FT04. Can you read?
Yeah, they are a hotspot access point, so you can actually connect directly to it.
Right. That's
just
cool
like the FW14s and whatnot. So that is something for engineers is awesome too, because you get a call. Now you don't have to have your workstation. You don't have to break your laptop out or anything like that. You got your phone. It auto formats to your phone, which is another feature, which is, I mean, it's hard to even explain how great that makes it, And like you said, with the upgraded, with the FS, with the upgraded processors and whatnot, the graphics now, you can almost run a good sized building on one of these FSs.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Brian, I want to shift gears a little bit because, again, as we look at, and we've been with EasyIO since they first came over here. And, again, it's a little bit like watching, your impetuous genius, young child, your idiot savant or whatever it's called, that comes up with all these great products, and they've developed great products. It's been a staple with these guys from day one. To me, a turning point with these guys and was, sort of bringing Gina Elliott on. And, Gina runs the North Americas for EasyIO. I thought that was a brilliant move on EasyIO's part. Speak, if you would, about Gina and what she brings to the table, and as a customer, what it means sort of having somebody like Gina in charge.
Yeah, well, let's first just remind everyone she's a Woman of the Year, right?
She is definitely the Woman of the Year. Yes.
So she's definitely earned her stripes.
Yes.
But having someone like Gina on your side really ups your game. To be able to have someone like that to talk to in regards to new product developments, and really the biggest thing about Gina is listening. She'll listen to our feedback and really take it to her team and really say, hey, this is what's needed out in the field right now. We're not building stuff based on what we think. We need to build stuff based on real stuff that's happening in the field. The other thing about Gina that I saw is she's really kind of taken EasyIO down a different path. It really seems like EasyIO before Gina was focused on building automation and being a BAS company, and really going against the Allertons and the Andovers and stuff like that. We're just as good as them, but we're easier and we're cheaper to do it. Gina has kind of opened that. She's changed it from a 2-lane road to a 4-lane road.
Well said.
It's the IoT portion of it now is amazing, and it makes the product so much more needed, I guess you could say, and valuable for an integrator like me. It takes it to where you don't have to have all these products as a product line. You don't need to have all these things stocked on your shelves for all these different scenarios. One thing EasyIO has been very good at is every controller is open. Every controller is fully programmable. Now, that doesn't mean you can't make an EasyIO controller a standard application, because they have standard applications for you to actually load on there. But the fact of the matter that you're not locked into a standard application when you buy something from them, you could buy something for one job. That job turns around going a different way, you can use that same controller for another job. You don't have to wait for, oh, now I gotta wait for another job with 2 heat, 2 cool, and an economizer.
You
Go in
said
there,
something,
bomb the programming, and redo it.
Gina, real quick, Eric, I remember having the conversations exactly like you said, that there was when they introduced their new North American, concept, and they weren't selling application-specific controllers. In fact, they got away with controllers. They didn't like the word controllers. Gina wanted to call it IoT devices.
A device.
That way, whatever you want to do, just so it's an IoT device. And if you have an idea and you know how to engineer it and configure it, this device is ready for your application. So
well,
just
go ahead. I got to hop in. I want you to say some more, but to me, Gina is one of the best kept secrets in our industry. I mean, she's been with Schneider Electric. She's been around. If you ever have a chance to have a conversation with her, her breadth of knowledge and understanding goes way beyond building automation control. She's a brilliant strategist. She's a brilliant marketeer.
And she loves talking about it.
Well, yeah, she does. And she loves listening, but she also loves talking. But if you've got a problem, you can talk to Gina and she can crystallize it down. And, to me, it's almost like if you look at the New England Patriots, they got a lot of raw talent, right? But it's Bill Belichick that takes that talent and sort of harnesses it and focuses it and gets the results of it. And I think if you took Tom Brady or any of those other players and put it with another coach, they're not going to be the same player. So again, my hat's off to EasyIO for bringing Gina on board. I think that was one of the, they've done so many brilliant things over the years, but that was one of the most brilliant things they did. So Gina's quite an asset there.
Yeah, and on that same token, I feel we got to mention Brian Klein.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. That's definitely something I think that pushed EasyIO over the top in regards to the USA market. Bringing someone like that on, you can see, just stuff speeding up now on the USA side for EasyIO, and that's someone like me who's been waiting for that, I guess you could say, for a while. So to see Gina and Brian really take it over and really just full bore ahead, they're not sitting back and waiting for anything. They're going full throttle.
The ceiling's nowhere in sight for these guys. I mean,
it really isn't.
When you can kind of go, they got so much more they can go. So, hey, Brian, look, man, this has been so great. As we sort of wind it down, I want to shift back to you and your company. Tell our community a little bit about, sort of what you focus on. If somebody wanted to engage you guys, because you guys are not just in the Bay Area, you guys travel all around.
Yeah.
If they want to engage you, sort of what do you specialize in? What can they expect from working with you guys? And last but not least, how do they get hold of you guys?
So, we specialize in automation. That's the best way for us to put it. I don't like putting a frame, per se, around automation and say, just HVAC, just this, just that. So right now we specialize in off the wall projects like the anodizing plant that I mentioned. We'll also do full HVAC projects, and we're actually one of our lead integrators for Dent Instruments. We're utilizing their new PS48 multi-channel meter. The cool thing about matching these guys with an EasyIO is they follow the same concept of BACnet Modbus, serial or TCP right out of the box. So, to get a hold of us, twistedpairautomation.com, or you can contact me directly, Brian at Twisted Pair Automation. And we're really just focused on customer experience and giving the customer what they want, and building a system based on their wants instead of selling them on a system based on what we can offer.
That's a great distinction. Very well said. Very well said. Well, Brian, can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Hopefully, are you going to be down in Orlando for AHR by any chance?
I'm definitely going to be there for AHR with you.
Well, listen, I have a feeling you're probably going to be on the nomination ballot for Integrator of the Year, as well as probably Best Interview of the Year. And now that Mike Marston doesn't come around very much to the U.S. anymore, man, maybe you can continue to be one of the spokespeople for EasyIO, because I tell you what, they should be paying you if they're not already.
Hey, I owe them, because they're making my life and my technician's life a lot easier and making my customers real happy.
Well, very, very cool. Brian, thanks. We'd love to get you back on the show. We will definitely see you in Orlando. And hey, please come to the Controltrends Awards as our guest, man. We would love to have you there. Yeah,
and just real quick, thank you to you two for everything you guys are doing for the industry with this. This is definitely a cool thing to come to every week and get updated and really get the news on what's going on firsthand from people in the industry.
Well, Brian, can't tell you much. We appreciate you, brother. So, man, Kenny, what do you think of Brian, man? Good stuff, huh?
Yeah, I'm just a genuine good person, very talented, self-starter, true entrepreneur. and he's at the cusp of the next level. I think, having that kind of genuine, authenticity with the actual ability to do things. So he's got his credentials, his source documents. He's been through, the Niagara world, and he does, leg spring, and so he's got his credentials. He's there certainly as an integrator, and then to take, the different options he has and use EZIO as his featured product line means that not only does he have a great deal of confidence in it, but it's making money. He's banking his future on, a very successful product, and the future bodes well for him.
Right. Well, listen, that is cool stuff. I want to, cycle on. We got our second guest teed up and ready to go. And again, we're in an age of influence, meaning you can't hide anymore. You do good things, you get rewarded. You do bad things, people find out about it. But this guy is a podcaster. I'd never heard of him before. But dude, I'm so impressed with what he's doing. And I think you're going to really like him. I encourage all our listeners to subscribe to his podcast. But how about introducing our next guest, Kenny?
Eric, I'd love to. This is going to take a second. We're going to introduce Jon Lester. Officially, he's the Marketing Operations Manager and Consultant Partner at Siemens. But on the other side, Jon Lester is a podcaster that's up and coming and has a very important message that we're going to share with the Controltrends community regarding all the trends in the industry coming from a different perspective. Welcome to the show, Jon.
Thank you very much. Thank you. How are you going today, guys?
We're going great, dude. I tell you
Beautiful.
what, Kenny, I don't know that he's up and coming. I think he is, and his podcast is something we should aspire to. Jon, I want our Controltrends community to know about this podcast because it's awesome. It's called Buildings of Tomorrow. And we'll get the links in the show notes and everything. But Jon, I got to tell you, man, it's a great concept. Kenny and I can't say anything in less than 45 minutes, and so our podcasts tend to run what we call long form in the industry. And dude, you've taken a little bit different approach. Tell us about the podcast, how you got it started, and what you're trying to accomplish with it.
I appreciate it. Yeah. So the podcast, as you mentioned, is called Buildings of Tomorrow. And the idea and what we're trying to achieve is, in this industry, this industry that we all love, so many things are changing. And as technology gets more adopted into buildings and we start to talk more about smart buildings and all these kinds of things, things change even faster. So what we try to achieve with this podcast is take some of these key topics, take some of these key market trends and innovations, and just take it back to the really basic stages. Take it step by step. What are these things? Why is it interesting? Why should we care? There's a lot of stuff and a lot of noise in general, not just in our industry, but in every industry. Why should we care about it? What can it help us achieve? And what are some of the really interesting use cases and thoughts that the experts that really know this stuff intimately want us to know as just normal players and people around?
Now you are actually based in Switzerland. How did you wind up there? Walk us through your career a little bit.
Yeah, thanks. So definitely based in Switzerland. Right now it's a little bit cold, not quite as cold as you guys see in your part of the world, but basically I was really lucky to come from university and join a great company like Siemens, and I've been able to travel with them all the way from Australia, if you can hear the accent, all the way over to Switzerland. And through that time, in different technical and sales roles and things like this, what I have been really lucky to be given the opportunity to learn, and what I've been given a little bit of opportunity to see, is all the different things across all the different technologies, innovations, in this industry. And what we really wanted to leverage from that was, try and bring that experience to everyone. Not everyone's been fortunate enough from that perspective to get that insight and have the time and the ability to do that. So we wanted to try and bring that experience to everyone else.
Well, Jon, I want to make a correction and an update. As far as Eric said about up and coming, I agree wholeheartedly. I didn't mean to see up and coming as a professional, but in North America, I think you're going to start to get traction that you didn't have before, and we're going to help to do that, because I think what you're doing is marvelous, and we're in that same media boat. And to Eric's point, I'm on the website, and there's number 22, number 43, or number 30. You have multiple, podcasts, and you have a particular theme is that people, when they get involved in their work and they're going under a job, a project, 6 months, 8 months at a time, they pop their head back up, and the industry is taking a giant step forward and they can't keep up with it. So what are you doing to make that less of a problem?
Yeah, exactly. As you say, not only are things getting more driven by technology, but as we know, technology moves so quickly. So we also understand that people don't have hours every week to sit back and read articles and to do their own research and kind of educate themselves from start to finish on some of these topics. So what we're trying to achieve is to make it easy. And podcasts, exactly like yourselves, is a really great format because you can download it and listen to it on the train or listen to it in the car and kind of update yourself as you move along. And we want to take that opportunity with this great medium and just create these snackable pieces of information around these core topics. So make it quick and easy to learn about one or two specific points around these topics. And then the next day you can learn another two, and just use it as a little bit of a tool to keep that wheel turning, to keep the education process moving forward, so that when you run into these in our daily work, we're not left out in the cold.
Well, that's true. And I think, John, that one of the things that if you're going to be charged top dollar in any profession, the first thing you have to do, and I'm thinking of doctors and lawyers and scientists, the first thing you have to do is create a vocabulary that nobody else understands. That makes you more important, right? And, I got to tell you, man, you're in jeopardy of being hated in this industry, man, because you're taking all these concepts that are really confusing that we charge a lot of money for people to pay us to help debunk and understand. And you're making smart buildings available to every person.
Secret sauce, yeah.
If I'm giving away the secrets of the big paychecks, then maybe I should keep a couple for myself on the way through.
Yeah.
No, like exactly that. Like you mentioned about, we get these buzzwords, we get this like special language that's developed by the experts, and it's not intentional, but they use it to help express themselves and speak with other experts. And what we'd love to be able to achieve is to enable the people to kind of cut through some of that noise and just get down to the heart of the problem and get that basic understanding. We don't have to all be experts on everything, but at the very least, let's give ourselves a grounding so we can understand and have that conversation without being completely lost or without having to guess along the way.
Right. Now, and I think it's critical, and I'm going to ask you how it is in Europe, but I know in the States, North America specifically, we are facing a huge problem, which is all the old guys like me and Kenny are leaving the industry, and there are not enough young people coming in. And to me, one of the things I think you're doing really, really well, and I encourage people, especially the younger people, to listen to your podcast, is you're making it accessible, the industry accessible. You're making it to easily be understood. And I think once people understand, how it works, in sort of layman's terms, and they can dive in and they can learn the big vocab words. But I say you're doing a service, at least over here, in terms of making it accessible to younger people that might be interested in this industry, but, can't get past the vocab.
No, I appreciate that, and absolutely, it's not just a situation like this in the US. It's global. We've got young guys coming up who don't either have the opportunity to learn some of this detail, or they don't get given the time. They walk out of school, or they walk out of their trade, and they get chucked a big project, or they get chucked a big task, and they don't have the time to kind of get their wheels spinning. And if between yourselves and ourselves and all the other people, passing this information around the industry can help get those wheels moving, even if it's in those transit times or in those down times, then I think we're doing a service for the whole industry in general.
Well, John, again, I'm on your website, so I'm cheating here, but I see 30 podcasts, but
30,
the whole
correct,
purpose of a podcast is that it is to be in those in-between times. And I do a lot of windshield time, a lot of driving between, one point and another point. And I really look forward to getting those little bites of information. I mean, some of these topics are so awesome. The people productivity, number 24, personal achievement, and how, explaining that to somebody that doesn't realize that, they still look at an office building and an office as just a room, a structure, but they don't realize that that's a center of productivity that can be enhanced or can be diminished by the environment. So that's kind of a cool, explanation.
Yeah. Like we kind of have a real mix of products, and it goes from the standard technical things that maybe someone working in a mechanical or an HVAC part of our industry would be, like hydronics or room automation or something like this, and then through to BIM and digital twin and data analytics and all these different things. But they're some of the ones that I really love the most. Like this people productivity is kind of not just explaining something that maybe we need on a daily basis, but giving us a bit of insight into what we do as an industry. What we do as an industry is not turn the lights on and off and turn the air conditioning on and off. What we do is provide an environment for people within the buildings to go about their daily lives effectively. And if that has an impact on how productive they are, or how healthy they are, or how they're able to ensure that they have a healthy mix, they're more productive, they're out of work earlier, they've got a healthy mix between personal and private life. Like, these are some of the impacts that we can have when buildings are designed and delivered and commissioned and operated properly. So it's kind of also, we look to try and expand that understanding and give ourselves a bit of a pat on the back every now and then as an industry to say, we're not just in the business of putting controllers and field devices in the ceiling. We're trying to make these buildings work better, which encompass our lives in general.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And I think one of the things Kenny and I talk a lot about. There's something called the $300 rule, or $800 rule, which basically gets to the point that the productivity of the people in the building is where the big energy savings are. It's a big boom. And so I think, to your point, if people are just focusing on we're controlling this or controlling that, they're not going to be successful even if they have a great product, because a big part of it is you have to be able to have the right conversations. And I think that's where you help. And contrary to popular belief, the term digital twin is not the description of me and Kenny, which many people think it is. So how about enlighten them on digital twin, and then talk about how your podcast can sort of help people be able to have the right conversation. Because again, I think more so than ever, Kenny and I have talked about the fact that if you don't have a great product, you're not even in the game. You're not in the conversation. You don't have great pricing. You're not in the conversation. You don't have great tech support. You're not in the conversation. There are a ton of people that have that. Yeah. So Kenny and I, one of our premises is that the theory is the winner's going to be the one that can have the conversation. So speak about that and what you're seeing in that regard.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. In the end, there's lots of different products, there's lots of different levels of service, there's lots of different skills. I always like to use the example of being a salesman. There's great salesmen everywhere in the world, and there's 1,000 different ways to sell. So there's no one thing that gets us there. And if you talk specifically around something like the digital twin, this is one of the topics that I get really excited about, because it's, maybe today we don't have it, but this is the whole idea. And let's prepare ourselves and understand exactly what's possible. And when we we talk about the digital twin, it's, if you go through a digital planning process, which almost all buildings are done with today, what can we do with the information that's collected through that planning and design process? And what can we do with it, and what can we use it for to create value, not just while we plan what a building's going to look like and how it works, and we schedule ourselves on site and we decide when we're going to be and where. What can we do with all that information to more actively bring value in that operation phase? Because when we talk about buildings, we still talk about 80% of the total cost of a building is through those 20, 30, 40 years that we're operating a building. And any savings that we can have using, one of these new approaches or processes like BIM or these kinds of things is great, and it has an effect on that first 20%. But if we can take that information, we can build this, the digital twin, let's say, as a term to define this digital model or this digital representation of a building. If we can use that to do simple things like connecting the information we collect from building automation systems, security systems, these live control systems in a building, and connect it with the where, like where is this happening? Not just a point name, not just a device name, but really represent it physically on this building. Just us as humans are able to kind of derive and understand that information more quickly and more effectively. One of the things, and one of the other topics we talk about, data analytics. I'm joined by a really smart guy called Tyson Suter, and one of his greatest quotes that I enjoy is say, like, data analytics by itself is useless, and data in general by itself is useless. We can derive through algorithms 1,000 different ideas on how we can improve the operation of a building, but you always need a human who has the expertise to decide which one of these is valuable. And all of these kind of approaches using data don't replace humans. What they do is enable us to be better at what we do. And the digital twin is just another one of those. If we can make the connection between what's happening in a building and where it's happening in a building more quickly and more intuitively, we can find value. And if we can find value through that 80% cost through those operation phases, then all of a sudden we can have a huge impact on on how that building works and how it controls or takes energy and consumes it along its life cycle.
Well said.
John, yeah, it is well said. But I think this is kind of an important message to tell the Controltrends community, is that the typical time of your podcasts range from around 5 minutes to 8 minutes, but they contain so much information in a very enjoyable presentation. For instance, my favorite one was the one you did on August 28th. That's my birthday, by the way. And it's the market trends, and just to hear such incredibly succinct summaries of information provided in such an appetizing snack bites, as you said.
One healthy, Kenny. They're healthy snack bites.
Snack bites too. Yeah. Well, that's just it, because in the salesperson, you're arming people. You're giving them the opportunity to become enlightened in certain areas that they can actually. One of the things I always do is, before I go somewhere and have to do a presentation or stand up in front of people and say, hey, this is the technology trends. These are the innovations that are affecting us. And as Eric and I always say, we follow Controltrends. That's the name of the show. That's the name of what we do. It's very difficult to prepare yourself. But I could listen to these things, get that 6-minute buzz, explanation and whatever. And I think these little snippets prepare everybody, whatever capacity you're, whether you're a facility manager, whether you're an HVAC technician, whether you're a master systems integrator, an engineer, whatever. These things give you that reassurance that you do understand that concept, and it gives you kind of the guardrails. You're talking about this to this, and this is what this means and could represent. Yeah. So it's kind of really cool.
No, I appreciate that, and I liked one of the points you just mentioned. You listed a whole bunch of different stakeholders, different roles within the industry, and one of the things that we see as this technology becomes more ingrained in what we do, and we see a lot more integration between systems. It's no longer, when we have one job or one particular role that we can. We have this bucket of information or knowledge and we can rely on it, because people are asking everyone these questions. Like our service technician that visits a site might get asked by his customer, are we using data analytics to run this service? And knowing our core role is still absolutely essential for us to do good work, but just having that little bit of information enables our sales guys and all of our colleagues out there to just have that conversation, exactly as you mentioned, to get a little prepared, get a little fired up for that conversation. So when it comes along, you can turn it into a positive, exactly. and find, more conversations and find more things to talk with our stakeholders, our customers, our users. And if it enables us to sell a bit more, or it enables us to just build a better relationship and get a better understanding as people that are dealing with today, then this is a great outcome.
Sure. Very, very good. Our guest this week is Jon Lester, the podcast Buildings of Tomorrow. Jon, let's talk about Buildings of Tomorrow. What sort of trends are you seeing that are emerging now that are maybe surprising you, because you've been around the industry for a while? And then let's talk about what the Building of Tomorrow is going to look like.
Yeah, for sure. So some of the trends, like we touched on one before, this digital twin, that we see coming in the future is really, now we have this ability to create information. We have more and more pieces of kit, pieces of components, field devices, whatever it might be, creating data and starting to throw this into the cloud, throw this into the operating system. So absolutely one of these great trends that we see emerging now is not just IoT devices, because these have been around for a while, but actually our ability to start to collect them and connect them more effectively, and be able to start to share that information more effectively. Having 1,000 IoT devices in your building is amazing. You collect a lot of information, but if you stick it up into a cloud that is standalone and it's not easily connected and integrated, the information isn't normalized, it's not easy to use, then we start to run into problems. So this is a really interesting one for us. And then also, a trend that we see in the market in general, which we really like, and we also touched on when we talked about people productivity, is this stronger understanding of the impact that our work has on other people. There's a few institutions and groups cruising around, like the Wellness Institute and these kinds of guys that give ratings to buildings around well certification. And I think we see this as a trend that perhaps this was early adopters before, but now people are really starting to understand exactly what you said. The 330-300 rule. $3 spent on electricity equates to about $30 of rental costs, which equates to about $300 worth of employee cost. So absolutely, we continue to focus on improving our energy efficiency, because this is essential in general. But if we can continue to make a balance between that energy efficiency and the effectiveness of the employees, you know, maybe we can produce the same amount of impact as a company with 20% less space, and that has an even bigger impact on the energy efficiency and consumption than perhaps we've seen in other worlds. So a couple of things like this, which are, you know, ideas that have been thrown around for a little while, but are now starting to become more common. And then maybe the last one I'd talk about is, you know, we're kind of starting to push our world beyond just what happens within the building and this, you know, our building automation systems, our fire safety and security and these kinds of things, and starting to get more interactive with the energy supply and the energy grids. You know, for two reasons. One, because we're better at collecting this information and passing it along. They're getting better at being able to manage those grids dynamically. And then, you know, this distributed energy generation trend that we see, which has been happening for a long time, but now so many of these buildings, particularly large campuses and the like, are not just consumers of energy, but also producers. You know, this is a huge impact. While we might not manage this as an industry directly, like this interaction is something which is absolutely new for us. And you know, that'll be a challenge for us to derive that value, but has a really you know, great opportunity also for us to get involved and have a bit of fun working with those guys and starting to pass energy back and forth, using this as a business case to justify, you know, investment in a building. You know, if you start selling a few $100,000s worth of energy back to the grid, this all of a sudden becomes a different business case when you're talking about the control systems and the functionality within a building. So it's exciting times from that perspective.
Yeah, your controls can make money for you as opposed to just taking money, right? So
it's be nice, isn't it?
Now, John, it looks like you have quite a background in cybersecurity as well. Do you see the cybersecurity aspect of this sort of getting ironed out?
Like, it's the joy of cybersecurity is there is no solution, you know, and
job security, baby, right?
So while it's been a topic for a while, for sure, as soon as all these great things that we talk about, smart buildings and IoT and interoperability and interconnectivity, yeah, you know, threw out 1,000 buzzwords there, but basically passing information, more things creating information, more things passing it, and more people using it. Cybersecurity just becomes more and more important.
Yeah.
And you know, as you say, job security, but it's a forever evolving topic. You know, where you stand today, whether it's good or bad, is going to be different where you stand tomorrow. And it's, for us anyhow, the big focus is just awareness. While this maybe wasn't on the top of our priority list 10 years ago or 5 years ago, it absolutely has to start being there now. And not just for us, but for our customers, the owners, operators, maintenance guys within the building. Like, this is now, you know, if our goal is to operate buildings effectively, it can't be ignored. Because if you want your building to keep operating, you have to be able to maintain and deliver a building that has the right aspect of security.
Yeah, if you actually want to have a building in the future, it better be cybersecurity. It's going to be taken down, right? Yeah.
But
that's it.
To John's point, you know, as soon as you know, it's like thesis, antithesis, synthesis. As soon as something happens on the positive side, there's a negative correlation or opposite. The equals, and so the benefit is
we're not talking about
by,
we're not talking about marriages here, Ken. Come on.
No, but I'm just saying, hey, you know, cybersecurity, you know, and I got a kick out of it because, you know, there's so many different viewpoints, but the whole thing is everybody, again, is a stakeholder. I mean, from the first employee through the door to the most important, you know, IT, you know, the guy that controls everything has inherently the responsibility. But there's like two emerging, you know, fields of thought. One's this building, you know, so we have OT and we have a building network, building services network, and then we have the enterprise network, and there's like two campaigns, two philosophies on how to best provide cybersecurity, and the incredible market that it represents, from the insurance companies to the actual people selling hardware and software. What's happening over in your neck of the woods, or what's your thoughts on which one is more favorable, the enterprise version of it or the building services network version of it, combination of all the above?
That's a tough one, and I guess like everything with cybersecurity, one of the things we like to talk about is every job is different and every application is different.
Sure,
And if I can take the cop out, or the easy way out from that one, is it really depends on the site and on the customer and on the project and the different systems that are connected. Like
well said.
there just isn't a one-stop shop for this, and this is why it's such a challenge, because especially from when we talk about building automation or control systems, we're used to knowing what we do. Like we build a thing, we build a software, we build a hardware. This is what it does. Here's its functionality. We sell that, we go and do it. And cybersecurity, you just can't take that approach, because every project is different. And again, even that project, if you were there a year ago, you could turn up a year later and they've integrated a whole new system, or they've changed this or changed that, and it brings into focus also a new stakeholder for us, because we've always talked to our maintenance guys, we've always talked to our facility managers, but in general, we've not had really close relationships with IT guys, with the bloke on site who manages the IT infrastructure, who keeps the hardware up and running, that runs the patches or whatever, and keeps everything running from that perspective. Even if we still do have a bit of separation physically between the infrastructure of the OT systems and the IT network, more and more information is getting passed across. And so many of these topics that we mentioned quickly about productivity and these smart buildings is about getting information that we collect within the building in our systems in the hands of the users of the system, of the building. Sorry. So we want the guy who is at his laptop working away as an office worker to understand what's happening in his building, and we want him to be able to tell us what's happening. Does he like it? Does he not? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is the light too bright? Is it not? And as soon as we start to pass that information, which is essential for us to provide him or her the best environment, we have to start expanding that stakeholder list and build a relationship with a guy that we don't have the knowledge that they have, and we don't have the understanding of what they do. So this is a challenge for us in general as an industry, to kind of learn their world a little bit and learn what they need from us.
All right, John. Well, listen, I want to shift gears a little bit, because you're a podcaster, man, and you're a really good podcaster. Had you podcasted before? What sort of started with this? And it sounds like you're a lot like us. Kenny and I work in the field every day because, we have our day jobs. Podcasting is kind of a passion for us. If I'm not mistaken, you kind of work in the field every day too, right? Plus you do the podcast sort of as a marketing piece.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit lucky. I get to mix the two every now and then, which is nice. But yeah, have I podcasted actively before? No, but I've talked a lot.
Yeah.
So I've got enough words to fill a room for sure.
Now we do have a bunch of female Controltrends podcast listeners wanting to know what rock and roll band you're in, or pop band, because they're pretty much convinced that at some point in time you were doing music. So is that true?
It is actually, yeah. I used to, when I was back in Australia, I used to play in a band, a hip hop funk band. So we made a lot of noise there, and I enjoy noise and having people jumping around and having some fun, and nice. I guess I just enjoy the energy. And this is what I love about the podcasting medium, because you can just have a chat. It's not like you do 5 takes of the same thing to get it perfect. It's not like you have to worry if your tire's straight or if you're moving your hand strangely or anything like that. It's really just sitting down with people, having a chat, learning some stuff along the way, and having a bit of fun.
No, that's a lot of fun.
Eric always invites the beer. He says to sit that he gives the scenario that pretend we're at a bar and we're having a couple beers and we're having a conversation.
Speaking of that, do you know a Kylie Minogue? I think she's a famous singer. She's texting going, yeah, she likes your band.
Of course,
well.
Yeah,
So
what a legend.
Yeah, of course, Kylie.
Yeah, we used to hang out, no doubt.
Well,
next time we catch up, we'll have to be over a beer in the pub. That will just take the mindset to the next level.
All right.
We've actually done some remote podcasts in pubs like that, so we're totally down with that. Maybe we should just all go down under, me, you, Kenny, and Kylie, and some of your other friends down there, and we could maybe listen to you play the band and do a podcast.
Well, now's the right time because the weather down there is glorious. So.
Yeah, I bet. Hey, listen, what's the best way for people to get your podcast? I know it's all over the place, but if you can give them one place to go, where would you want to send them?
So obviously just head and search for Buildings of Tomorrow. We're lucky enough to get you there, but just go to all your standard podcast channels or podcast platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, whatever. For us, it really doesn't matter as long as you can access it easily and freely. And yeah, that's about it. Like, grab it wherever you need to. Spreaker, there's a huge list of different platforms that we provide it via. And similar to yours, we've got some videos hiding there as well on YouTube, so you can do a bit of a search, find your way, absorb it however it suits. And feel free to find us or find me and let us know what you think. And if there's a topic that's interesting that you want us to talk about, or you think we said something stupid, maybe you'll be able to join us and explain to us what we did wrong and give us
that's no fun.
The right answer.
Nice.
That's no fun. No.
Hey, Jon, we'll be sure to put the links on Control Trends too on this week's episode. Jon Lester, Buildings of Tomorrow. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us. And hey, let's not make this the first time, okay? Can we get you to come back on maybe at least once a quarter?
Absolutely. We can do this for sure.
All right, brother. All right. There you go, Jon. Thanks so much. So Kenny, man, Jon Lester, man, what a great dude, man. Really good. I mean, obviously, I appreciate podcasters. This guy is a pro, great stuff. Not the last we'll hear of Jon Lester for sure.
No, I tell you what, Derek, it was a delight to meet him. And man, he's just super talented. What credentials he's got, it's and then he's a cool dude too. He plays in a band and loves music, likes to see people have a good time. But deep down inside, his messaging is really and truly novel and important. You got to get the message out. You got to stay in touch. I mean, I can't say how important it is when you go away for a week, a month, and whatever. You come back to that desk full, or the emails piled up, everything's piled up. Well, that can happen too with congestion of technology. There's so much of it going on. How do you filter it all? How do you stay in touch? What's your daily news? And to have a pulse of a podcast that's 5 minutes to 8 minutes long that really and truly captures.
Snackable, baby. Healthy snacks, man.
I tell you what, I wrote down a couple of notes because I really think that they're making it more concise. Like you say, snack size, momentum of the industries and how the flows are going. But again. We know that data analytics, HVAC, the impact is not what we're into in buildings anymore. We're way beyond that. We're into the user, comfort.
So
control.
Jon Lester is snackable. I guess that makes me you like a full meal deal.
Yeah. That's what
Can you imagine us ever doing anything in less than 5 minutes?
Well, if you, yeah, we could if we had to. I mean,
I don't think so, dude. I don't think it's possible, man.
Well, we could always try. I mean,
we consciously made the choice to go long form, and it's like you say, we've been doing it that way for a while. We will. Now you can have the full meal deal, or you can have the snackable. But I like what Jon Lester's doing, dude. And listen, let's shift gears a little bit because the nominations are upon us. Updates on the nominations, how they're coming, and tell people what they need to do to nominate if they haven't already.
Well, yeah, there's a great response. We're getting a lot of stuff from Europe, Poland in particular, but it's about midway. The nomination period. Remember, this is the nominate. You can hit 3 people, nominate 3 products. You don't have to just hit one, and these are going to be used. The voting nomination is going to dictate who the top 5 or 6 are in each category, and those are going to be the ones that are voted on. And
the finalist.
Yeah, so I mean, it's happening quick. We see a lot of guys and girls have social networks that really energize and respond, and unfortunately, they're not all the same. Social medias are not connected, are not created equally, and not managed effectively as some of the mature vendors have. They have a lot of resources at their disposal, but when it comes down to it, you need to energize your communities. And if you're not doing it, obviously it's reflected in the nomination period.
Yeah, well, and I think the other thing too that you can do, which we make it really easy this way, is you can actually take the link and you can send it out to your network. I know a lot of people do that. They'll go, hey, it's nomination time for the Controltrends Awards now. Please nominate us. And there's nothing wrong with asking, okay? And as your brother Tommy Smyers used to tell me when we were single, we go to the bars, he goes, there's nothing wrong with going up and asking her, right? If she wants to dance or whatever. So
I had nothing to do with that, Tommy. Olga Lee, no, it wasn't me. It was Eric.
No, this is back in the day, man, before we were both married. So, allegedly. But you can do that now. The other thing is there's a category called other there. So if you do not see the person, product, or company that you want, you can just go to that other, write it in. The man, the myth, the legend checks that every day, and then it'll officially go on the ballot. So that ballot has been flushed out by people nominating people, basically using that other category. So when I say other, it's just this thing that says other, and you just write it in, and it goes through. So. But dude, we're getting there, man. It's going to be Super Bowl Sunday in Orlando. We had somebody that really wanted another platinum sponsorship, and we scraped together some tickets, although we were sold out, and we gave them one. Who was that? Why don't you tell about our new platinum sponsor, Kenny?
Yeah, GC5. So Global Controls 5 out of Poland has now become a platinum sponsor, and welcome aboard. Thank you very much for your participation. And wow, are they energized. You talk about somebody that really truly is focused on the North American market. They've got some great, we have a post on them that is presently on the featured, and they've got some global projects of serious note. You know, the Dubai and the Orient, but go to the post and check it out, because it's another, you know, it's a advanced building automation solution based on the global Niagara framework. So it's going to be familiar to a lot of people. And what they've done is basically it creates solution-based. It's a solution-based global Niagara framework standard. It's been a completely scalable solution for projects of all sizes, used in over 800,000 facilities around the world. 800,000 facilities, wow. Ranging from student campuses, hospitals, schools, apartment buildings, to such large investments as the Shanghai Airport in Singapore and the Dubai third terminal airport. So those are some pretty marquee projects, and I think that demonstrates that they've earned their stripes, and that there's a new player in town in the North American markets, and they're very anxious to work with partners.
Yeah, I actually met those guys out at Haystack. Really good stuff. Brian Turner with ControlCo handles them, and so Brian handles it. That's a pretty good recommendation right there. So again, thank you to those guys very much for coming on. I think we have a few tickets left, not sure. So if you want to go to the Controltrends Awards and you're not a sponsor, you need to start reaching out to our sponsors and seeing if they'll invite you. They love bringing you in. For them, it's a great opportunity to get to know people, create goodwill. And KMC and EasyIO are our two Platinum Plus sponsors this year, but you can see the other sponsors on the side of the Controltrends website are the Platinum sponsors. And with that, Kenny, man, it's going to be a great show. I'm excited. It'll be here before we know it, but vote. And we'll be announcing the finalists probably the first or second week in December. So the nomination period is coming to a close in the next couple of weeks. So get on it. Yeah.
Please, if there's anything we can do to help, any more marketing materials that any of the people want to make sure we can get them posted on Controltrends to help you get the recognition you deserve. The Super Bowl party that's going to follow we're finally starting to see some of the contenders that are going to be in the Super Bowl, and it's not going to be Atlanta, it's not going to be Pittsburgh, and Mark Peacock's not crying, but he's a little disappointed in the New York Giants. They're not going to be in the Super Bowl either. So it's going to be just a marvelous event, because again, we're going to transition right at the end of the Controltrends Awards. We're going to transition right into the biggest tailgate party in Orlando, or one of them, certainly. Yeah. One of them.
No, the biggest. We'll have the Super Bowl party. We'll bring the big TVs in so you can watch the Super Bowl game. So you get the Controltrends Awards, you get the Super Bowl party. I did get a text here from somebody, Kenny. They wanted to know if your secret agent missions have been to audition cheerleading squads. Is that what you've been doing on these secret missions for the Controltrends Awards?
Yeah. How did you guys find that out? Man, the leaks are everywhere.
Yeah, they're pictures. I think Edward Snowden's got pictures of you interviewing these cheerleaders. It's not pretty.
No, we're doing this very formally and very, very, very above board. This is all legitimate, and these are going to be professionals. And again, we're trying to get this thing. So if you wear your Atlanta Falcon shirt, you will look right at home and in place. And I know you're going to carry that proud Falcon shirt on stage.
I'm not wearing a damn Falcon shirt on stage, man. I'll tell you what, I might wear a Manchester United shirt or something like that, man. But the Falcons, are you kidding me? No way. Maybe John Donahue let me borrow a New England Patriots shirt.
Well, what happened? You guys were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
I don't want to talk about it. Come on now. This is a professional show. Man. We don't want to talk about amateur hour. But special thanks to our guest this week, Brian Marini, from twistedautomation.com and Jon Lester from Buildings of Tomorrow. Check both those guys out. And with that, hey, man, remember, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant, and do something cyber secure this week, like turn your phone off.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed. Kevin Smith. Comes out of the box.